I want to talk a little bit about Alibaba. Ticker BABA. Now, you may have heard over the past few months about the IPO. Probably haven't heard a whole lot about it lately. I don't know if it's been in the media or so forth, but even if you don't follow the media, pay attention to the media, if you're an investor, you probably heard something about it a few months ago, prior to the IPO, during the IPO, even after the IPO. Now, I can't recall if I made a audio talking about it. I think that I did mention it sometime a few months ago. And I may have mentioned it in some of the research. I recall talking about, in brief, the problems with not only Chinese securities in general and the complexity of how they're only able to offer shares for sale to U.S. investors, to foreign investors through arranging types of shell companies. I didn't really get into the details of that. That's a big risk for Chinese securities. Now, those of you who get the research, the Intelligent Investor doesn't have any Chinese securities on it, never has. I don't think it ever will. And Dividend Gems, of the 44 securities that we have on there, and of course we've gone through several securities because several securities have been purchased on that list, so we had to make replacements, right? There were a lot of buyouts. There are a lot of buyouts in the other recommended list too, through Intelligent Investor. But the point is that Dividend Gems has one Chinese security, and only one. And I think that that is the most stable. And I'm not going to get into that. But that's one thing that, you never hear these numbskulls, these con artists out there who run boiler room brokerage firms, who are paraded in the media as experts despite their miserable track record. Guys, same guys pumping China, telling you how China has a more free market economy than America, right? Communist China. Telling you about all the great growth in China, doesn't ever talk about the risks. Never talks about the risks. It's kind of funny because back in one individual I'm thinking of, back in his past, he has a history of problems with the securities regulators for not disclosing risks. I won't mention who that is. Same person never talks about risk, ever. And of course the media lets this blabbermouth with this terrible track record, complete salesman, yap away, and they never question his terrible track record, his delusional ideals, or the fact that he never talks about risk. All he does is scares everybody. He wants to scare Granny and Joe Sixpack out of the U.S. dollar, out of the U.S. stock market, into speculative currencies, into speculative stock markets, into speculative investments such as gold and silver. Anyway, I'm not going to get into this numbskull. But the point I want to make is that I talked about this problem. And of course, I've been talking about Chinese securities for several years, making warnings, issuing warnings that there would be a huge blow up in the Chinese stock market. Didn't expect it anytime real soon, but in the next few years. So, getting back to Alibaba. Once again, I did talk about some of the complexities with Chinese securities. There are numerous. And let me tell you something, folks. As I've talked about in the past, even Chinese don't buy stocks in the Chinese investment markets. They don't buy Chinese securities because they know it's filled with fraud. Okay? The only time basically you have Chinese and Chinese securities is when you have these political leaders and their relatives who get shares at a pre-IPO price or something like that, or they're given shares, or they so-called earn shares through, board directors and so forth. But the point is that I knew about Alibaba many years ago. And it's amazing now that you see, of course, the stock, largest IPO in U.S. history, and raising $25 billion, and it opened up at around $200 billion market capitalization, and within a couple of months, it soared by about 50%, almost 50%, making it, I guess, nearly $300 billion market capitalization. Well, a couple months later, now here we are, end of February 2015, and it's been, I guess, about 6 months, not quite 6 months. IPO was in mid-September, and we've got Alibaba sitting at pretty close to the IPO price, or the pre-market IPO price. So right now, I'm looking at the price. It is just under $90, $85.12, February 27th, 2015. So it's come down by a lot, right? Now, part of the reason why they came down, I guess for the most part you could say the stock came down because of the miss in earnings or missed revenues. And then right around that time or shortly thereafter, it was announced that one of the Chinese regulatory authorities issued a report discussing problems with Alibaba in terms of businesses that are not registered, businesses selling fake goods, pirated goods, and so forth. And so since that time, of course, you have now all the parasites coming out, the law firms, which I've gotten over the years, probably 20 or maybe 15 announcements for class action lawsuits. I've never submitted my information for a variety of reasons. For the most part, they make it inconvenient and difficult for people to if they know that I'm an investor, why don't they go ahead and automatically put down the shares that I had, right? They should go ahead and take care of that shit for me. No, they want me to go through 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago and see what I owned. I don't, irrespective of the fact I don't know what brokerage firm I was with and so forth. These brokerage firms, by the way, they don't even keep the data that long. Many of them don't, even the online ones. So this is all a big scam, these class action lawsuits, and they're done to basically allow the company to avoid any serious penalty and to basically allow it to move on, pay a little money, and of course the investors get screwed and the attorneys make all the money. That's how it works. So I never really have participated in that dog shit because it's a matter of principle. I'm not going to engage in something that I'm supposed to be rectified with some settlement of 2 cents a share. Okay? The deal with Alibaba is, of course, now the law firms are coming out and saying, well, there was misstatements, false, misleading statements in the SEC filings about the company. They didn't talk about the pirated goods and this and that and so forth. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, what the fuck is going on with all these people who call themselves investors? What kind of due diligence do you do? This is China. This is a Chinese company selling shit from China. What do you think they're going to be selling? What do you think they're going to be selling? Handmade baskets from the village? Of course it's going to be pirated shit. All they had to do, any of these funds, and this is the problem, folks. You got pension plans, teachers' pension plans, firemen's pension plans. They're investing in this shit. Does anyone's head roll? No one's head rolls. Right? No one's head rolls. Pension fund managers keep their fucking job because everyone's kept in the dark. People don't even know that they have these shitty investments. And, it's not looking bad right now. It's a break-even situation. But it's a scam. Alibaba is a bullshit company. It's a criminal company. And I know this from my initial participation. I was curious about it. And so I made an account about, I don't know, maybe about 7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago or something like that. I can't recall. But I can tell you, I know for a fact it's a bunch of crap on that site. I mean, there's some legitimate products, of course, without a doubt. But it's not like anything you would ever encounter in America. There's so much shoddy behavior. If you even visit a vendor, you visit their site, take a look at what they have, they get the information, and then they spam you. I can't tell you how much I was spammed. I was spammed over and over again, and I was wondering how in the hell I was getting spammed. So it's a lot of really shoddy behavior, and you can tell there's a lot of illegal goods, pirated goods, and there's a lot of fraud. There's a lot of plain fraud, without a doubt. And so, it'd be one thing if the IPO was, they were going to try and raise $50 million to give it a market cap of, I don't know, a couple $100 million to $300 million, $500 million. But we're talking about on the closing day of the IPO, this thing closed at a market capitalization over $200 billion. And no one did any due diligence. I'll tell you why. Because they didn't care. Most of these guys, they flipped out of the shit. And the ones who didn't flip out of it are just dummies. Okay? So, what do? Well, I think that the downside risk remains for Alibaba. Okay? I'm not saying from here. There's a good chance that it could rally from here. But I would have to believe that there's a pretty good chance that Alibaba still has a long way to go down. In other words, it could go up from here, but where is it going to be over the next, say, 2 years, 3 years, right? Will it touch $40 or $30? I think there's a pretty good chance that it will. Right? The point is this. You never want to invest or even trade in any types of securities that you don't understand somewhat. This is the least likely security that you want to be investing in or trading in, because there's just no way to know what in the hell is going on. I mean, if you just look at the financials, though, financials are a disaster, in my opinion. I mean, you're talking about less than $12 billion in sales. Think about it. Over $200 billion market capitalization. Less than $12 billion in sales. Okay? $12 billion. So what's that come out to? That comes out to about, under $5 in revenue. Under $5, less than $5 in revenues. Or let's just say $5 per share. Would you want to invest in a company that was trading for $85 a share, and for each share you purchased, you were getting $5 in revenues? Wow. Are you kidding me? Talk about rich valuation. And keep in mind, this stock was $120 just 3-4 months ago, right? Maybe 3 months ago. So, if you look at some of the other metrics, the margins are good, which is what you would expect for a new company. And, not new company, but a company that was just launched on the public stock market, and also is still supposedly in a rapid growth phase, to justify these types of ridiculous valuations, which I don't even know how they justified. But when you've got a company that IPOs and it misses its earnings within, I guess, the second reporting period, that's a problem. That's a big problem. Okay. So I haven't looked into the stock really to see, what the lockup periods are and so forth. There could be all kinds of things going on. But I'll tell you this, anybody that thinks it's a deal now, being down from $120 a share, you need to think differently. I just, it's just shocking the stupidity out there. If you want to go for a stock, I mean, if it was between Alibaba and Apple, well, go with Apple. I think Apple is getting pretty damn richly valued. I'll be honest. I don't care what anybody says. And, the only way they're going to be able to really get out of that hole that they're digging with their valuation is a aggressive share repurchase plan. And share repurchase doesn't mean your business is growing, okay? Not at the same rate anyway. It means that the trajectory of growth is slowing. But, I mean, at least with that, you've got a real company with real goods and services and a premium people are willing to pay. I wouldn't be buying either of them at this stage, but if I had to buy one, it would be Apple, that's for damn sure. But I would say that there's probably a pretty good chance that within the next 2 to 3 years, you're going to see a pretty large downside on both of those stocks. But I'm much more confident about that with Alibaba. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. And I don't think that the story with Alibaba is by any means finished. I think there's going to be a pretty rocky road ahead. And you can imagine, as the Chinese economy begins to slow. And I think that, I'll be honest, I think that Jack Ma, I think that he pulled some political strings and basically went to the Chinese government and said, hey, listen, this is our big chance. This is our big debut into the capitalist markets here. This is our showing. We have to be successful in this. As well, I think that he also sold the idea that Alibaba would serve as some type of a cushion or insulation for a slowing Chinese economy. I don't know. That's just my guess. Either way, one thing I know for damn sure, this whole situation with Alibaba and Jack Ma, it just proves the point I've been talking about for quite a long time, is that all very wealthy people are crooks. They're all scumbag pieces of garbage. Jack Ma knew this bullshit was going on, and there's all kinds of dog shit going on. Was Jack Ma a piece of shit crook before he got involved in this company? I don't know. I can't tell you. But I know one thing's for sure. Anyone who has an excessive amount of money didn't get it honestly by pure legal, ethical, moral means. That's fact. That is an absolute fact. You can take it to the bank. The only exception would be individuals who inherited their money from their relatives or other individuals who gave it to them. And those people were crooks. Problem is I've seen over and over throughout the years, these wealthy individuals, many of them who inherited the money, they become crooks because they want more money. They're greedy. Greed is the destructor. It is the true destructive force of the human population. Greed destroys everything. Stay away from greed. Stay away from greedy people. Greed is a manifestation of the devil.
terms of getting back as an investor, if it's coming down to here, almost irrespective of what's going on, I have to believe, if I have to make a call in advance, and of course I can change depending on what happens, but I have to believe this is where you want to start doing that 18, 17, around there. Their earnings report is a complete game changer, at least for quite a while. Bottom line, NVIDIA now is going to enter the realm of Tesla, Apple, and all these other big, I mean, listen, NVIDIA can come down to 150, come down to $100. If you don't think it's possible, then you don't understand how the market works. I mean, listen, NVIDIA can come down to 150, come down to $100. If you don't think it's possible, then you don't understand how the market works.